Okay, good morning. Welcome to Shop Talk number 2. I have a feeling after you guys have gone through a few of these rapid fire succession, your heads are going to be spinning with hopefully incredible ideas. So I'm Ted Hunting with Genesys, and I don't want to give you, we're not here to give you a Genesys commercial today, but we're really from the smallest contact centers to the very largest, biggest in the world. We cover them all. And I actually wanted to share today, the topic is delivering effortless personal omnichannel journeys. So I'm going to be talking about some things that might be a little bit more advanced, sort of the ne plus ultra of what's possible. But basically, a lot of these ideas, you can take little pieces of these as well, because I think we're going to look at some complex examples, but we'll also look at some very simple ones. So in terms of the agenda, first, and I'm going to go very quickly. One thing I love about this forum, the Customer Response Summit, is I think of all these different forums, what I love most about this one is the people are the smartest and they're the most passionate. So I think I'm relying on the brain power in this room, and that you've probably all had a fair amount of coffee today. So I'm going to go fairly quickly, because when I go to these sessions, one thing that drives me crazy is I like to hear a lot of content. I don't want a lot of fluff. I want to get right into things. So I've actually put a little more content than I would normally include in 30 minutes. But I think my intent is I think it'll be more beneficial to you. So we're going to talk about current state of effortless personal CX, just a quick sort of picture to set the stage. I'm going to share 4 keys for creating personal, omnichannel, low-effort journeys. We'll come up with a few customer examples. And then I've actually I added this just in the last few days, some use cases. These are almost like prescriptions for creating effortless personal journeys that I'll share with you. And then finally, takeaways, because you guys are getting a lot of information like a fire hose. We'll do the takeaways. And by the way, we'll share the presentation with you post-event as well. So first off, Kate, she wants effortless personal, and I think the reality is she's been to your website, she's chatted with your employees, she's waited patiently, she's tweeting. And the reality, and I'll even say this, we work with companies from the biggest to the smallest, and I was actually dealing with one of these very big companies last week who's a Genesys customer, and they're one who they don't always use all the capabilities, and I was basically Kate. I don't look like Kate. I was Kate last week, because my feeling last week was, why does it take 3 people, 4 hours, and multiple channels to support Ted in this case? So this is what the reality is. Effortless personal is still horrible. I love that stat in the panel. About 81% of companies think they're doing it great. 41% are actually doing it well. It's really a huge problem still. And what I love is in this new digital world, we often think it's going to be more impersonal. I actually believe that digital customer service is going to be more personal, more effortless. It's going to be hyper-personalized and predictive through data. This is where the world's going. It's interesting, I have a son who's in high tech in San Francisco, and I asked him, well, Andrew, what do you see? What's going to be next? And I thought he was going to talk to me about VR goggles and stuff, and he said, no, Dad, it's like when I go to my coffee shop. It's like they point me to the front of the line. It's almost like the diner in the 50s where I want to walk in and they say, make it the usual, Betty. So I was amazed to hear my 28-year-old son talking about the past is sort of the future of customer experience. Okay, now some keys. Key number 1, and it's interesting, my final key is actually the one that Tim from Amazon, he was just talking about how he's totally on that wavelength as well. I didn't want to start with that one, but he says, Ted, you got to start with that one. But I'll get to that one in a minute. But the first key that I think is really important is information to act in the moment. So the Gartner CEO, Gene Hall, he talks about if you don't want to be disrupted but be the disruptor, the companies that will win in the next 5 years are the companies who will make the most of the business moment. So I think that's really key. So I think as part of that, we've got to give agents the ability to act in the moment. So a little bit of an eye chart. What this is an example of is an omnichannel agent desktop. So when an agent is looking at the journey, you'll see the journey history here. And you might actually see, for example, this is one of the steps in the journey. So in this case, it's somebody on a website simulating a loan. So the agent can see that step in the journey. But not only that, each one of these other boxes could be a step in the journey, from a text message to an email to a web chat. Could even be coming into a local store or branch where you were comparing refrigerators on the website, and then when you come into the Lowe's robot alerts somebody in the back office to come out and say, here's Lisa, who is comparing the two refrigerators, and they come out armed with the information. So part of acting in the moment is giving the agents the ability to see the entire journey. Now, as part of this, if you actually look at these journeys and you see that there's certain, if you do a macro version of this where you look at a dashboard overall of these rolled up and you see friction, you can actually then go back in and re-architect the journey to get rid of the effort and make it more personalized as well. So I think this is a key starting point. Now, as part of that, also giving the agents the ability to maybe see like the web activity, the journey history in the CRM system, have standard responses. So it could be a omnichannel library of responses. So here's the tweet responses, here's the web chat responses, here are the, whatever it may be, responses. Having this as basically a standard response library. So one desktop that really empowers effortless personal. Am I going too fast so far? Good? Okay. Key number 2, this is really starting true omnichannel with 2 channels. A lot of times people, they think omnichannel, it's like boiling the ocean. They want to get everything right. What we've actually seen, and I'll share some best practices in a moment on this, but I wanted just to start with, sort of omnichannel. I love the panel discussion on the definition of it earlier. But basically, I think a good way to look at omnichannel, we get caught up in the technology and the jargon that, quite frankly, a lot of vendors have used, I think have really convoluted what omnichannel is about. So really, from a Genesys perspective, customer feels it's one seamless journey across the channels. Customer feels you know them at every touch point. Like I think about if I'm chatting with a bot, I don't want to, if I suddenly need an agent, I don't want to have to re-authenticate and then restart. I want the bot to say, hey, Ted, notice you were doing this. We got someone here who can help you. So that's sort of a key at every touch point. Agents and employees are able to see the entire journey, what we just saw a moment ago with like the desktop, omnichannel agent desktop. Your offer not just personalized, but ultimately predictive service. I think that's sort of a key new wave. Dimension Data is talking about that right now. And you're stuck not in another silo, but ready for the next gen of omnichannel. So I mentioned chatbots. A lot of people are putting in chatbots. Well, that's just going to be another silo for many companies. So as these new messaging channels come out, they need to really be integrated in to one seamless conversation. And we'll share an idea on how to do this momentarily. And I love this one. This is an idea I borrowed from ADP, one of the VPs there, who we were doing a panel at the end of last year. And I loved his word that there is no longer like the contact center or a CX center, but it's basically CX everywhere. And I thought that was a really, I don't know, maybe that doesn't get you guys too excited. I thought it was a pretty profound statement. Including your physical channels. It's not just the contact center. Oops. Not sure what I did there. I know, of course, this is the session you're filming as there you go. Thank you. Oops. Okay, beautiful, thank you. Okay, I'll keep us on time still, so I know we're tight here. So, make sure I hit the right button this time. Okay. And I love this. This is really probably a key takeaway. We did a brainstorming with about 25 companies at the end of last year, and there's also a leading journey analyst at Forrester, who this is her advice as well. But basically, get your top 2 channels working together. And as part of that, there's a lot of data right now that 99% of all the interactions are going to be starting on the web. So the advice would be, get your website working with that key other channel, whether it's your IVR, your voice. Get the, sort of the 80-20 rule, get those channels working together. So true omnichannel, a little bit more on the definitional side, non-fragmented, non-siloed interactions, single conversation across channels. Context is captured and carried across the channels. That's really key, that information, so you can see it in real time. Agents can see the journey that we talked about. Agents are empowered for omnichannel CX. If they can't act on it, what good is it? It's powered by your business rules, and the journey can be measured to improve. Like if you can actually see where there's friction by channel, by journey type, then you can see where you might want to smooth it out and change things and re-architect the journey. And ultimately the litmus test, is it effortless? Is it natural? Is it personal? So that's really, I think, a good way to look at omnichannel, our view. Key number 3, embrace new digital approaches to reduce effort. So imagine, I love this example, self-service of yesterday was sort of the IVR, and tomorrow's self-service is going to be bots and AI, cognitive bots like from IBM Watson, micro apps that we'll share in a moment, Alexa, the Google Home and all these fun devices. And I love this example from Sephora, not a store that I go to, Kate goes to, my wife and daughter go to, but I think it's like a skin beauty something, I don't know, something. But basically they put a bot out there and somebody asked them, well, what are you doing with your bot? And they said, we have no freaking idea. We don't really, that was their answer. And they wanted to see how people interacted with the bot. And then from that, they then determined how they were going to use the bot. So I thought it was a great way to sort of throw it out there and see how people interact with it and then adjust. Uber's Chris Messina, a really interesting new blog. There was actually a great one even in the last week. They're doing a lot with flying cars, and I like to fly, so I get excited over that stuff too. But this guy's pretty smart guy. But he talks about conversational commerce is coming, utilizing chat messaging or other natural language applications. So this is going to be a key part of those new emerging channels, new digital channels that we're going to be dealing with. But again, as you put them in place, don't create another silo. They've got to be integrated in, or things that frustrate Kate are only going to get worse. And I love this statement. Michael Maus, one of my favorite guys at Gartner, he's a very visionary guy in the CX space. At the largest Gartner event at the end of last year, he basically was saying to everybody in a forum of similar people here, everybody in this room ought to be looking at chatbots. So I thought that was some good advice. But again, don't do it as a silo. Make it part of an effortless omnichannel journey. Okay, a few more thoughts here. Imagine you go to the website and you request live assistance. This is a direction we're rolling some of this out with some of our more innovative customers right now. Imagine when you request live assistance on the website that you actually have your option of picking what you want. So a callback could be 12 minutes. A web chat's available now. You can send a message, co-browse. It could even be a chatbot. Could be an IBM Watson chatbot, could be another chatbot, could be a video call. But giving you the ability to let the customer pick. Talk about effortless. I mean, it's sort of like, to me, this is what's possible now, and it's a whole new level of low effort. So again, with this sort of concept, what if you could allow web visitors to access their channels, chatbots, co-browse, video, call us, email, and more? You could present channels based on segment. There's a large bank here, was in our last session, and they only offer proactive chat to their high-value customers. Other people don't get it, as an example. You could present channels based on your business rules. So if it's the retail season and you don't have the people available, maybe you present more self-service channels. Any channel, any device for a mobile world, and they could be offered or pushed via the agent. So again, an omni-channel experience that's personal, effortless, and omni-channel. Okay, this is another area. I won't spend a lot of time on it because we're limited on time, but this is something that I think is going to be really exciting. Gartner talks a lot about apps going away. I think the key apps like the Amazons or the Hilton apps that are really high value we're going to continue to use, but I think micro apps are key. So for example, you might offer these capabilities to communicate, but if you know that 80% of your customers want to view my bill, how can I pay my bill now, take some of those very standard things that you might see from your journey history reporting and make it very easy to access those capabilities right on the website. So this idea of micro apps. So for example, if you wanted to check a bill, you might enter your customer ID and suddenly you can see a payment was made, or in this previous example, you can download your bill. So this idea of making it very easy to have self-service. And key number 4, and this one, it's funny. This is, I would say, so Tim from Amazon said, Ted, you got to put that one first. We agree totally. That's what is so important. Whether you build it yourself or you use a tool like a Genesys to create the platform, we've seen this is really the key. Tim was saying, Ted, you got to put it first because that's the key. As a vendor who offers a platform, I just didn't feel right making it key number one. But again, whether you build it yourself or you use a platform like a Genesys, this is really the key to enabling the effortless omnichannel because it gets you out of the silos. And I love this statement. It's not just Genesys who's saying this. So this is one of the visionaries at Gartner. And the conversation was, how do we become digital giants and be the disruptor, not be disrupted? What Gartner is saying right now, this is a picture I took in December. And this was Gartner's approach. They believe the new digital platform is the key for really offering the CX capability. So whether you build a platform or you use a development environment to create one, this is really the key, I think, for Effortless Personal. Okay? So now a few customer examples. So the first one, here's one, this is actually a retailer in the UK, Marks & Spencer, and they basically put in an omni-channel platform across mail, voice, email, social, SMS, and web chat. And what they found is within the first 4 months of integrating these together in an omni-channel way, they actually saw about an 800,000 pounds improvement in revenue. And I think it's very interesting because a good example is I was chatting end of last year with a PC manufacturer, which will remain nameless, and I needed a simple question answered, and it was basically, oh, you have to call in if you want that answer. And it's like, it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Then I went to Fidelity, who's one of our customers. They use us for omni-channel environment, and I'm chatting, a cup of coffee at 6 in the morning. I needed to transfer some money to pay for a landscaping yard for my backyard for a new house, and through web chat, I could transfer money, and I was like so excited that it was so effortless and it was so having the web chat combined with the other channels and having that so you don't have to re-authenticate can really make a difference. So I think Marks & Spencer is a good retail example here as well. This is one of the largest banks in the US. It's one we know very well. They prefer we not use their name, but what I wanted to use this use case because what they did is they actually took the mobile app and they made it so when you come in through the mobile app, it drives me crazy when you hit the mobile app and you say contact us and it sends you to, you get the main number and then it asks you what language do you speak, as opposed to, hey Ted, you're coming through the mobile app, I noticed you were comparing TVs for the Super Bowl, would you like to be routed to someone who can help you with that? It's like a personalized IVR capability. So they've basically integrated the mobile app with the IVR and the contact center, so they have one seamless conversation across channels. And actually it even fits with the stats that we saw earlier today, the panel. They talked about who's doing digital CX best. I think they had telecommunications first, which that one floored me a little bit. Financial services was right up there. I actually see financial services. These guys don't want to be disrupted by like the Tangerine banks, the all-digital banks, which is actually a customer of ours. I think Scotiabank has bought them now because of that. You see a lot of interesting things happening. But these big banks, they're not getting disrupted. They're not going to let the little guys beat them. So I think the financial industry is really doing some pretty smart things here. Here's another bank, speaking of banks, in Brazil, doing some interesting things with virtual branches, true omnichannel. Anybody here from Brazil? Okay, so we'll skip that slide. I'll share it with you later if you'd like. And I wanted to now get into some use cases. And I know we have sort of limited time, so I'm going to hit these sort of quickly. And but these are almost like prescriptions on how to really start effortless personal omnichannel. So the first one is think about proactive effortless assistance across any channel. So a customer's maybe trying to apply for a loan online. Customer is right in the middle of the application and jumps out, doesn't want to complete the application. The system detects the customer, the platform detects the customer's canceled the application and needs help. The customer gets a proactive invite to connect. The agent has all the information, agent availability is determined, and the issue is resolved. So we actually have number of customers who are doing this, so basically where you can actually see what's happening maybe on the website, and then the information is passed on, and then you can act in the moment. Okay, here's another example. This is one where maybe the customer is looking for information. Customer sends a request on a digital channel, And based on the customer journey history and who they are and the value, you could have a business rule to basically route them. Sorry about that. Let me turn this off. I didn't actually have the timer set. That's my daughter. Sorry. So the request is sent to the best available agent, and the agent sees the full interaction history in the context in the desktop and can handle the issue. Here's another one that I think is a good use case about effortless omnichannel. So in this case, customer attempts to contact the company multiple times. Customer makes another attempt. And in this one, business rules drive special handling of the contact. They're given high priority, and information is distributed with their full journey history. A business rule triggers a proactive outreach, and the issue is resolved. So I think having that sort of that predictive, personalized service that we talked a little bit about, this would be an example of that in a use case. Another one, the personalized IVR. I mean, it's amazing that IVRs exist the way they exist today. They're so, we hate these things, or most of us do. So you call with a question, customer's identified, IVR detects the customer is eligible for an upgrade, or it could be what you were doing, like the comparing refrigerators, and based upon that, the IVR plays a personalized message to help that customer. So a much better IVR than the standard IVR that we all deal with far too often. And of course, the customer agrees to the upgrade because that's how these stories always go. Okay, another one. This is where maybe reducing effort in a mobile app with a new digital channel. So for example, you're in the mobile app, you connect to the agent, you might request video. We're seeing a lot more customers, in particular financial services and government, using video. It's definitely a tipping point. And in this case, visual feedback is provided and the issue is resolved. Here's another one. This is one we actually showed in a previous shop talk. The visual IVR concept. Is anyone not familiar with that? Does that mean anything to anybody? Who here knows what a visual IVR is? Okay, so we have not a lot of hands. So this is an example where maybe you call in on the IVR. The IVR notices you're on a smartphone and says, hey, notice you're on a smartphone. Would you like visual assistance? And based upon that, if you say yes, you get a text message. You click on the text message, your browser on your smartphone opens to a mobile web page, and you can provide information. I just had to do an appointment at Kaiser the other day, and I know that one of our customers we work with, they don't have this capability yet, but I was trying to use the IVR to change my appointment. And you spend like an hour. By the time you get there, you need to schedule your appointment again because you missed it, it seems. But this is where you could actually select it right on the screen. So a much better way and a much more effortless personal IVR when you can do that using the combination of text messaging and a web browser and the smartphone. Okay, and another example, actually I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to skip over just to make sure we finish up on time. Chatbots. So this is another one where you're chatting with a bot. I just added this one over the weekend. Thought it was a good one to add. Customer needs help beyond the bot. The customer is greeted by an agent with the full conversation history where they see everything they've done. And then the agent's able to help out and lower the effort and lower cost as well. So very quickly, as a recap, and hopefully, by the way, not too much of a fire hose, a lot of information. I probably needed a little bit more than 30 minutes, but I hope there was some good content here for you guys. But a few key things for the takeaways. 4 keys for effortless personal omnichannel. First one is information to act in the moment. You really need to see the journey to create the great journey. Start true omnichannel with your top 2 channels, meaning typically your website and your second most important channel. Embrace the new channels that are coming, the new digital channels, because they can really reduce effort in the micro apps. And then last but not least, the platform is really the key. If you put this in place, it allows you to add new channels with chatbots come along to really reduce effort and be more personal. I think we've seen this with so many customers. They might have started with one channel, and suddenly they've got every channel even outside their contact center. It's typical. UPMC, it's the largest employer in Pennsylvania. They're like J.D. Power Award winners, Stevie Awards. I remember when they started with us and they didn't like us that much. They were trying to just get a phone happening 10 years ago, and their membership's tripled in the last 5 years, and they're now doing everything from healthcare concierge, where you get routed to your doctor basically, and they're doing things with video, and they have mobile chat within the mobile app, and it's just incredible what they're doing now. So the platform is the great enabler to really make it happen. And then finally, some of these use cases, hopefully that was helpful. I felt like it was maybe a little bit more detail, but I always like to say, okay, let's get down to the nuts and bolts. What do you want to do? So if you look at your company and what you're trying to do, what's that journey you want? These would be examples of maybe a way to start effortless and personal. So build it outside in, start with a customer. How do you want it to look? And then you configure it, and start. So finally, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys joining us today. I hope it wasn't too much of a fire hose of information. My hope is you walked away with one or maybe two great new ideas that you can use now or in the future. So really appreciate you joining us, and hope you guys have a great rest of the conference. So I'm already learning new things from you guys here as well. So hopefully we left you with a good idea. So thank you. Oh, and Courtney wanted me to remind you, please sign the form if you'd like a copy of the sign-in sheet of the Prezo, right?